Hi, folks. This is Louis Hertham, the original Peter Abernathy. Hell is empty and all the devils are here on the Shat on TV Westworld podcast with Roger, Gene, and Big D.
Welcome back to Shat on TV Westworld Edition, the unofficial podcast companion piece for the hit HBO television series Westworld. I'm one of your three co-hosts, Roger Roper, and alongside me are my two cowpokes, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Gene Arnold Lyons.
I built it, and it's my greatest mistake.
And this is our Instacast episode where we look back on this week's episode of Westworld and provide our immediate reactions in our Instacast and give you some ideas of what we're going to be talking about in our deep dive. Remember, we do 3 episodes every week. We do an Instacast, which you're listening to right now. We do a deep dive that we release on Tuesdays, and we do a fan listener email and respond at the end of the week on Fridays called the Westworld Telegraph. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat the Movies, where we review 80s and 90s movies. That being said, this week's episode was entitled Reunion. We just watched the episode. Gene and I, you and I were both together, continuing on our season 2 parties. Big D, you were watching it with us as we were texting. What did you guys think?
I think we're going to look back on this episode, and I think this is the Rosetta Stone episode that you have all the information to decode everything. We'll all focus back to this. Has to be one of my top 3 episodes. Loved it. I'm excited to go back and watch it again and dissect it for Tuesday's cast.
I've never taken notes this detailed on any episode. I took like Jezebel level notes on this one because I was like, I need to know it because, again, this is an episode that you're probably going to have to watch right before watching any other or after any other episode to understand and decode what the hell you just saw.
Yeah. All right. So the topics that immediately came to mind that of our importance that we want to discuss, Gene, what are they?
So what we're going to talk about, which is the big thing we've been wondering, people wrote in after episode 1 trying to figure it out. All of season 1, we were trying to figure this out. What is Delos truly up to? So what is the true endgame for Delos? Also, the weapon was mentioned by Dolores. What could that be? We've got some pretty good ideas on that. And then also, what are the new rules of the park? We saw that under the loops, under Ford's control, the old rules of Westworld, we knew them pretty well in season 1. The rules have changed, as the Man in Black proclaims. What are they now? And then also, what are the games? We mentioned in the last episode of the deep dive that we have different games that are set up for each person, and we're getting a better idea of what level each game is at for each player.
So starting with the Delos, the true end game, does this have anything to do with the title of the episode, Reunion?
Well, I think the reunion, obviously, there's multiple reunions. You have El Lazo, the Man in Black. You have young William and Dolores. You have Logan and Dolores. You have Arnold and Dolores. You have multiple reunions, but I don't think that's playing into necessarily what I think the Delos end game is. But for me, I think I'm kind of getting I'm getting more of a grasp on what I think they could potentially be doing, and I could be way off here, but I think they give us a lot of hints at the episode. They mention religion, resurrection, death, the meaning of death and life a lot. I think it ties into something they could be doing.
But isn't that also a reunion of sorts? When they're bringing back the dead, that's a reunion. You're reconnecting with these people that you thought were dead. Could that have something to do with what you think possibly could be the end game for this? Because you've got an interesting theory, which I have not heard before, and it's different than what Gene's theory is, what he thinks the end game is. So I want to hear yours first, because it was kind of interesting when we were setting everything up.
So first off, I want to say I picked out like roughly 4 timelines I think that we're dealing with, and I think it's important. Okay. There's the Arnold and Dolores, the first time where he's showing his house that he's building to be close to the park. Sure. Then there's the Logan demo, where he's in the bar and he's having the conversation, and William's there, and it's still Meek William, sorry. Then I want to be real careful here.
You can tell because he doesn't have his beard that he grew when he was in Westworld.
Didn't Meek William used to play point guard for the Detroit Pistons?
I'm pretty sure Meek Williams was just let out of. Oh, that's Meek Mills, right? The rapper Meek Mills, right? Okay.
So then there's also where William takes Jim Delos into the park.
Right.
And that's obviously after his first experience with Logan, because
right, that's when he fell in love. Yeah. Not his first experience with Logan. I think it's his first experience with Dolores. I think he already knew Logan before he went into the park.
This is after they leave the park. He's trying to now pitch the Delos Corp into upping their stake in the park. So he brings Jim into the park. Then the last timeline we're seeing is the retirement of Jim Delos, where Logan is a drug addict. So I think we're seeing roughly those 4 timelines, but I could be off. But in all the conversations they have, I started thinking when Logan sees Dolores and he says a line, something that it's funny that they're fiddling while the world is starting to burn. And the funniest part is they lit the match. He then says, "May your forever be blissfully short." I take it as his father is gravely ill, and they're either selling immortality or the belief that they can create immortality.
So what you're suggesting is that the IP, what they're collecting, they want to sell back and say, we're going to take your consciousness, or everything about you, and put you into one of those light bulb things that you see in the host's head. And then you can go and live your world out as whatever age you want to be at.
Correct. And either they're actually doing it, or we were thinking that this was more future world, that you would have a VIP guest come in, you watch what they're doing, you clone them with their DNA, you've already recorded all of their idiosyncrasies and their habits, and you replace them in the real world to start having control over industry and politics. What if it is, if you put me into the park for a couple weeks, you could probably create a good replication of me and put me back out in the real world. I wouldn't age. I wouldn't die. People, for all intents and purposes, would think I was immortal.
And you think that this is strictly because there's a scene in the episode where Dolores is recruiting the Federales?
Well, how does she demonstrate her power? By resurrecting the head of the Federales, and instantly the rest of them believe her power is to resurrect the dead.
Yeah, another thing that would lend credence to that is, again, they let us know that Jim Delos is apparently terminally ill. And I think that they wouldn't include that in the storyline if it wasn't somehow relevant, right? So I think that does lend some credence for it. I have a different idea on what they're trying to do. I think that it's a much more direct, much more feasible thing, which is simply that, when I was watching it, I go, oh, no, they're just going to, the whole thing that William's trying to do is,
Facebook.
Yeah, it's Facebook. It's marketing analytics, right? And then I said, well, hold on a second. What if it went a step further and it was predictive analytics? One of the things that I work with at my job as a digital marketer, my day job, the one that pays,
not that sweet
is
YouTube
something
money
called
we're making.
a data management platform. And what that allows you to do is you take your first party data, stuff that you've collected yourself through forms or website analytics, stuff like that, and you apply that to second party data, which is any data that's fed to you voluntarily by another organization or another data collection agency. And then you can purchase third party data, which gives you a rounded picture of everything else out there. And what that allows you to do is pinpoint advertising toward a person. You notice trends, you notice patterns of how they reach you.
Right.
And if you took that a step further and took it beyond marketing, what you could do is have predictive analytics for anything in life. And you think about an organization that has the ability to write narratives for people and to make every single nuance of a host seem lifelike and human. And then you combine that with analytics. What you have is the ability to predict anything a person will do, say, or think. And that's terrifying.
Which is why Skynet wins in every timeline in Terminator.
Exactly.
Right. This is my problem with advanced AI and with where we're going, is that a little bit of it is really good. Meaning, like, when I watch Netflix, I like to be recommended other shows that I might be interested in. I enjoy that. I enjoy when I go to Amazon and it's like, hey, would you like to buy this new costume accessory for your George Washington? Yes, I would like that. That's predictive analytics. I enjoy that. But I think the scary thing and why we're going through all this, congressional hearings is what seems good at first ultimately turns to nefarious reasons. Nefarious reasons are used. So I think the reason, in my opinion, why I believe more on lines with Eugene is Logan, apparently, for as wild as he seems, was really a benevolent individual. He was a believer. He was an Elon Musk type individual where he saw the good in the host, saw what it could be, wanted to use it for fun in a Las Vegas manner. And then when William comes along, he introduces William to this park. And then William sees, how it can make him feel, and it's changed him. It's given him a little bit of confidence to then go to his father-in-law and be like, you give me control because I really know how to exploit this. And I think that's, I don't know if they're going to use predictive analytics to hunt the humans, but I could see a little bit nefarious reasons, which is why Ford ultimately wants to kill William.
I don't know that I would describe Logan as benevolent.
No.
Let's think of it like gunpowder, right? So let's say Westworld is gunpowder, right? Logan's like, oh, we can make fireworks out of this.
Right.
That's really exciting, and I enjoy it. And maybe sometimes I want to fuck the fireworks.
Maybe I want to put a firework in my ass.
But then William's like, well, we could actually make weapons out of this. And he's like, whoa, I never signed up for this shit. Like, I don't want it to take it that place.
Right.
Don't you realize what you're doing?
Yeah.
Can we just have the fireworks, please?
Right. He's Tony Stark in the first Iron Man.
Yes.
But here's my problem with the two of you going. I like your thought on predictive analytics and how you could control the real world. Lawrence and the Man in Black, they're on a road show now to the gate. The Man in Black says, the place we're going, I built. It is a physical place. It's his greatest mistake. How would that tie in with the predictive analytics? Do we see them excavating in that end scene with Dolores and young William? I felt that they could have been burying or building a server farm into the ground. Is that what we're witnessing? That it's not so much the park, that it's the data source for your predictive analytics?
I mean, I like that idea, except for the fact that they did mention earlier that you can put all of the park's data into one host, right? Like all the computers in the park aren't equivalent to the computing power of just one host brain.
That's why they wouldn't need a server farm.
But that's today. That was 30 years ago that we're seeing.
No,
young William, when they're excavating. And also, hold on, they're not storing the experiences of all the hosts. The predictive analytics now is storing everything, that third-party data you discussed. You can't store that in the head of one host.
No, but what we're saying, though, is when they put the information into Abernathy's head, that was equivalent to the storage power of every computer in the park. Okay. Just in Abernathy's head.
It's an interesting concept, both of you. I think I think we're both probably like El Lazo going a little too far. They're allowing us to go all the way to the end of our loop cycles, and it's causing mayhem within the park. But I think if we scale it back, it's really just it's the intelligence that they're collecting. It doesn't have to be on server farms. Everything that they're collecting about humans, you're saying they could weaponize that against us.
Again, they are collecting the data. We know that. Whether it's being used to grant immortality or whether it's being used for predictive analytics, William proclaims that it is a mistake, whereas the Man in Black proclaims it's a mistake. A young William shows it proudly to Dolores, refers to it as, anything. Have you ever seen anything with as much splendor? I think that there's a reason for that parallelism, why they show young William showing Dolores the excavation, and then you have the Man in Black telling Lawrence that we're going to this place that is my biggest mistake. So along those lines, though, Dolores is also searching for a weapon that she's aware of. And I think that those two things tie together.
If it's a weapon for Dolores, she could be either misled that she thinks it's a physical weapon she could use in her fight to liberate the hosts, or it could be a metaphorical weapon, which would be truth. If they exposed what Delos had been doing, that could be as powerful as a gun, a bomb, anything, to truly bring down Delos and burn it to the ground.
What seems to be happening, especially in William's timeline, is that everything that he remembers, everything he knows about the park, it's not working for him. There seems to be new rules that he's engaged in.
This journey could be somewhat of a punishment for the Man in Black, and that the Man in Black wants to destroy it where Ford still wants to protect it. But no, your new powers are just all the locks and the safety mechanisms have been pulled off the hosts. They're still in their normal loops going out there, but they don't know that anything has changed. Only the Man in Black knows.
So it's only the woke hosts that know that they're in this world, this land. These other hosts that they're going and visiting, that they're allowed to play at a higher level and their safeties are off. But when Maeve and Dolores meet each other, they both recognize each other as woke hosts.
So there's basically a few set rules that differentiate between what we would call I would call a stock host and maybe an upgraded host in that sense. So stock hosts, we know that they believe their wounds are fatal. When they are hit, they go down, whether they're hit in the body or anywhere else. Once they have been brought back, a non-terminal wound to the core, to their brain core, it's like zombie shit, right? Like basically they have to be taken out that way. The other thing is that the stock hosts will continue on their loops, but they can improvise slightly. As they say, the Pardo brothers are off their leash, right? They still continue their narrative, but they can improvise slightly until they get to the end, as El Lazo does,
Right.
And then the loop doesn't reset, and
So
now
he
they're
just-
left not
he
knowing
just-
what to
he
do.
just stays there. Okay.
And then the other thing that Big D mentioned was that a downed host be brought back online, a downed stock host under new command.
Okay, but all right. So let me dive in because I think this was an important scene in the episode. We get to the end of El Lazo. It's Man in Black. He's trying to recruit his men, and you have to imagine in the normal game, in the normal narrative, the Man in Black could go to Pariah and could collect El Lazo's man. Like, you have to imagine that's why he went there in the first place, is to collect his men, right? El Lazo, he sees him, he's at the end of his thing, and instead of being able to recruit his men or recruit El Lazo to go on this journey with him, the game, Robert comes over and he's like, boom, I'm still in control of all these hosts. You can't use me. There's a ghost in the machine. Robert Ford is still controlling. He still has his, he's still pulling the levers.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, they weren't going to Pariah. They're going west, and they only had two options. Either shortcut through Pariah, or they can go through the armies that, it was too many men for them. It's obvious that Dr. Ford is still actively part of the Man in Black's new door narrative. Yeah, and if he wanted him, he could have killed him. But what I found interesting, and Gene mentioned, the Pardo brothers. The Pardo brothers are the ones who have Lawrence strung up in the tree. Under a normal loop condition, Lawrence could handle the three brothers. But now that the locks and the safeties have been pulled off, these three characters are somewhat more powered up than they normally would have been. Lawrence couldn't handle these three characters than on any other given day he could. So every host on its own is more dangerous than they were the day before.
Okay, so let me get this straight, though, also in terms of the rules. Maeve can control other hosts. Dolores cannot. So Dolores has to go and convince hosts, which is why you see that scene of her taking out the guy who looks like he's having the Last Supper. Is that what we're supposed to believe now?
Right. So, like I said, a stock host will believe that its wounds are fatal and will shut down.
Right.
Then you can, if as long as its core is still intact, you can
Sure.
bring it back online, and then you can control it.
But when Dolores switches the characters, now they respond to them. Now when she brings them back, that makes them believe, and they'll now be followers of Dolores.
Right.
Okay, my question is, this is I have two problems with this show. The first one is they got the guy there, like the one of the body shop guys, the one who can obviously plug into these other hosts. Why doesn't she just go and be like, hey, dude with the iPad, go ahead and turn up all their narratives before we have to have this whole, monologue back and forth?
So, as I discussed, so those are the rules: is that a stock host has to be brought down before it can be back
so it
up.
has to be reset.
She would
The guy
prefer
can't
that
do
they
it on
just
the fly.
followed her. That'd be preferable.
So what you're saying is the guy can't even reset it.
I don't think he can when they're still operating.
But can't he just take them down with a little iPad?
If they would do that, then why would there be security teams in Westworld?
I don't know. He's got he seems to have the sonic screwdriver right there in his hands. I don't know why he doesn't use it. The other thing is, but here's my other problem. There's only a 30 so we see Arnold with Dolores at this Delos demo. Wouldn't Logan have been able to see one of the Delos kids see Arnold?
I'm telling you, I think that's a different time frame. That's the first. That's
So you think that's earlier?
Yeah, because do you watching the show? When young William and Logan are in the park, Arnold's dead.
I get that. I'm talking about the demo.
Yeah, the demo. Arnold was dead long before that.
Arnold wasn't there?
The real Arnold dies in the park. Then they open it. What was it? 4 or 5 years later.
Right.
That demo predated even that.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I can cut it. I apologize.
Yeah, no, but I really truly believe that Arnold, that was a while ago. I think he only pulled out Dolores and Arnold for that first demo.
Instacast, guys. Instacast.
Okay. That was my fault for derailing. How do we want to bring it back on? Other things that we noticed in this episode from an Instacast perspective. Gene, you identified the player piano.
Oh, yeah. That was it's Kanye West's Runaway.
Big D, other things you want to say that you saw within the episode?
Gustavo Gus Fring, the best El Lazo, and bringing back the Breaking Bad character, Giancarlo Esposito. I wish he was in this show from day one.
Yeah, we watched it with the King Bee, and he pointed out that the guy who Dolores goes and recruits, he was apparently the final villain on the last season of
Was it Justified or Longmire?
Justified.
Yeah, Justified.
Yeah, Justified. I never watched Justified, but apparently he's a badass as well. Maybe we can look forward to seeing more of that character.
Did you guys also notice in the loop when Jim Delos comes in, who the sheriff was?
Who was the sheriff?
It was Armistice.
Was it really?
Yeah, she's wearing the sheriff's badge.
That's good things. Okay, so anything else we want to chat about or discuss before we close up shop and get ready for Tuesday's deep dive?
Yeah, just keep an eye out in the next few hours or in the next day or so. I'll be having 2 blogs coming out on the Westworld blog. One of them will be regarding Bernard, just what we've seen from episode 1, since we didn't see a lot of him in this episode, and then also what the Big D and I are collaborating on what the weapon could be that Dolores is searching for. I got a couple different ideas, and then we had one more, right, Big D? What was the other thing?
Was it that you need to pair the hosts, good and bad?
Ah, yes, the yin yang, Big D's yin yang theory. So those 3 blog posts will be coming out probably in the next 24 hours or so. So keep an eye out for those. You can go to shatontv.com to check those out.
Nice. That concludes this episode of Shat on TV Westworld Instacast edition. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're everywhere, including Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat on TV. Our Facebook is Shat on TV Podcast. Our website is shatontv.com, where you can see all our fan email theories, blog posts, and episode listings. If you want to email us your thoughts and theories, anything that we missed, anything that you want to discuss, or you have a tinfoil theory, please email us hosts at shatontv.com. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by, leave a 5-star review. That really helps the podcast grow. We got the top 20 this week on iTunes. Thanks, everyone, for doing that. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat the Movies, where we review 80s and 90s movies that you vote on and make us sit through them in Row A theaters in Mesa, Arizona. That's what we just did for Labyrinth, which was bonkers. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, and Gene Arnold Lyons, I'm Roger Roper. Be sure to join us on Tuesday for our deep dive episode here in Westworld. Take care. Good night.